start at the bottom, they clean it out, they move up. And the reason for that is, guess what? Heat rises. So they're able to work as the heat rises. They're able to move about. And so that's another reason why we encourage you to feed from the top. You put a Gorman feeder out front, it's going to be cool. They're not going to go down to get it, but they can go up to the top. And so what you do is take your cover off. This has a brood in it. And when you're working your bees, learn keep from mashing them. You take that hive. If I set it straight down in that lid, I'll mash some bees. If I take that hive now and turn it catty corner like that, I'm only touching 4 different little areas instead of the whole length of that rim of that hive. So this box is empty. I take it, set it on top, put it back down. Now my brood is on the bottom with the laying queen. Now she'll work her way up and fill that out. And when they get to be about, those bees get to be about 15 days old, early spring, they want to take and start drawing wax naturally. This is the second year now, second spring. So if you don't have a place for them to put their wax, believe it or not, it sets things in motion for them to swarm. So if you want to cut down on your swarming, provide them with some fresh wax foundation in our area. Now y'all a little bit ahead of us, by maybe about 2-3 weeks. We go out there about last week to 2 weeks at the end of February and put on a box with some fresh wax. Every other frame is fresh wax. It gives them a place to put that wax and it'll reduce your swarm. But now going on to there's a few things I want to tell you about. We'll go on to disease and pest management. I grew up in an era where we had virtually no pest other than wax moths. There was no hive beetle. There was no tracheal mites. There was no varroa mites. All of these things are a result of world trade. We got them from overseas. The varroa mites and tracheal mites from Southeast Asia, the hive beetles from Africa, South Africa. And so I see things a little bit differently. I look, because of my teaching from my granddaddy, look to nature for the answers. We've learned that instead of using Roundup to kill weeds under your hive, around your hive, increase your lime. You bring your lime level of the soil, or your pH level, to about 9. It pretty much kills just about all the weeds. And guess what? It helps with hive beetles. It's a neat way to control hive beetles, because hive beetles go through a stage. They have to crawl out of the house, out of the hive, and down into the ground. And they pupate at 5% moisture. And so if you take and raise the pH, don't know, haven't heard any scientific reports on it, but it keeps that from going full cycle. It stops it. Now whether it kills them or what, I don't know. But I do know it works. It's salt water. I got a friend down in South Carolina. He's out on the salt marshes. All his bees are out on the salt marshes on stands, big catwalk stands down there because of the rising tide. He's not bothered with hive beetles because of the salt content. The new CEO of Walker T. Kelly, they got a bunch of bees down in Mississippi. They were being eaten alive by hive beetles. So they went down there and scattered salt up underneath the hives and around. And that pretty well knocked the hive beetles down. I tell you, I guess it stops them from reproducing, going full cycle. But one of the things that you'll find is nosema. Nosema is a fungal disease. In other words, it's a fungus. The way to tell if you have nosema is pretty easy. You'll see a lot of feces on the hive, and usually after a cool spell in the spring, they've been caged up for a few days, and they'll come out and they have to relieve themselves, and it'll just splatter all over the hive. We're not talking about when you get a package of bees and they've been in shipment and they will not defecate in the box until about 10 days. They can't hold it any longer, and so they will defecate in the box, in a shipping box. You'll find splotches all over the front of the hives. On top of the frames, you'll find little brown runny spots. You'll find bees crawling aimlessly on the bottom boards, and the colony will look kind of restless. But you'll see the bees crawling on top of the frames. They'll be quivering with their wings kind of stuck out, kind of like that. And the bees will seem to be having trouble about flying. They'll be awkward looking. And to know what you've got, to treat your bees, you need to know what you have, brother. They'll have can have a swollen abdomen, and if you were to pull their heads off, their little midguts will not have any rings around it. That's really a good indication right there. And it will be a dullish, grayish, whitish in color instead of the color it should be. You need to take a bee and just pull its head apart, and you'll pull out the midgut when you get a bee, and look at it and see what you're looking at. Well, treatment. The chemical treatment is fumigillin B. I don't do that. I use a natural fungicide. We use tea tree oil. We put that in the sugar water. There are some handouts back there at the, as you go out the door on the right. It tells you how to mix it. I won't go into that, but you need to follow how to mix it. The tea tree oil is a natural fungicide. It's the most powerful honey out there. It's from the manuka tree. That's the only honey that is USDA certified to put on wounds, diabetic sores, and burn victims. It is so good that it works that well. Matter of fact, to the point where they're even doing research now on MERS. Did I pronounce that right, Rob? MERS, MRSA, the bacterial infection. MRSA. Okay. And it's having great success with that. So it's a very potent treatment for fungicide. If you have afflicts to it, test a little spot, see if you have a reaction to it. If you do, bring it down a little bit of alcohol, and it'll cure it. You know, they hadn't cured anything in this country since polio. Everything they talk about, the medical industry, we can manage your diabetes. We can manage your sugar diabetes. They found after curing polio, they lost so much money that we'll never go that way again. Did you know that by changing the pH level in your body, cancer, as a rule, will not grow? If you are, the reason our country has such a high rate of cancer is because the amount of acidity our bodies have. So if you reduce the acidity of your body, get the pH where it should be, cancer will not grow. And but there's no money in it because you can do it yourself. So they want to do the gene therapy where they target certain genes to attack the cancer, which is a good thing, but it's costly. But by just changing your diet, but they're not going to tell you about that. The doctor will give you a pill. That's something to think about. The next thing would be that you may run into, and we've got them listed as what you may run into, is varroa mites. Varroa mite is what we call a little seed tick of the bees. It's about the size of a seed tick. And you can actually see it on their thorax. And they'll get in there and will actually suck the bee and it's a very destructive little creature. One way to tell if you have it, you'll see bees with deformed legs and wings that have disjointed legs. It's difficult for them to walk. You'll see real spotted brood pattern in your hive. And then the mites, of course, will be, if you pull out a worker, or a drone rather, it'll be, the drone is usually real white in that cell. It'll be a little bit reddish, purplish, reddish tick on it. And it's about the size of a seed tick. You'll see bees, if they have a hygienic behavior, you'll start seeing a lot of larvae outside and pupa being thrown out because they're trying to get that out of the hive. One of the treatments is the use of a screen bottom board. Well, screen bottom boards mimic nature. You know, the bees go up in a tree, all the debris falls down, and then nature has a cleaning system. The ants come in, get what they want, and other insects. And so a screen bottom board will help with your varroa mites. The use of drone comb, where you take a frame, instead of worker cells, it has drones in it, drone comb. And you allow them to lay the drones in there. Because of that size of the cell, the queen automatically knows that she does not put any sperm in there to fertilize the egg. Because she goes in there and she measures that little cell, and that tells her, okay, this is a drone. I need to put an egg in there with no fertilizer. And so you get them capped, but don't mess up. If you forget and they hatch out, you just increase the mite population. So if you'll let them draw it out, let the queen lay in it, get it capped, your drones are going to be in there because they have more room to lay. Ideally, it's best to put a thumbtack on that frame so that when you go in that hive, you look down, automatically you realize, oh, I got a drone, I better check it. Pull it out and put it in the deep freezer. We like to put them in the deep freezer for at least 48 hours. That way it kills everything. And then go out there, take a scratching that you scratch your honeycomb with. It's a capping scratcher. And then put it back in there, and they'll pull them out. Or if you use a frame like this, a short frame, and they draw out drones, you can take those, take the hive tool, just cut it off, and use it for fishing bait. Drones make a great fishing bait. And of course, sugar dusting. We recommend that you take 4 ounces of powdered sugar, and you want to make your own, because you go to Kroger's, anybody like that, they've got powdered sugar with cornstarch in it, and bees just cannot digest cornstarch. If it turns cool after you do that, then they can't get it through their system to expel it, so it creates a problem for them. So encourage you to make your own. You can take 4 ounces of powdered sugar, put it in a blender, turn it on low, let it pulverize. Go out there, take your hive apart, start at the bottom, and just dust.
Okay, you said 4 ounces of powdered sugar. You mean regular sugar?
Yeah, you take regular granular sugar and put it in a blender, and turn it on low, and it pulverizes. Then you either put it in a bag or a big bucket. We use a big bucket and just take a scoop, 4 ounce scoop, scoop it up and just throw it over the top. One thing we do use is instead of a bee brush, the big brush has got the long bristles, and if you've ever used one of them, you notice they get hung up in it and they want to go stinging it and carrying on. So we found that this is a sponge brush, and just dust it on like that. And if you use, want to go to what they call hard chemicals, there's chick mite, Epicene, but those are beginning to show resistance. Mites are showing resistance to it. And there's some softer chemicals like Mite-Away, Quick Strips, the Apalaclar. They kill 95%, and the Mite-Away strips will kill about 95% of your beetles, your varroa mites. Also, Hop Guard. Hop Guard is a new product put out by Man Lake, and it is hopefully will be approved this year.